If you have money, it's essentially an entry in your bank's database stating your balance. Owning a stock? It's usually just your name on a company's, or more likely, an intermediary's, list of shareholders. For a house, things get a bit more tangible. There's an actual structure, but your ownership still boils down to a record, often a title filed away in some clerk's office basement. The house itself matters, of course. You have the key, your belongings are there, and your neighbors expect to see you coming and going. Yet, the database entry is what truly validates ownership, especially when dealing with banks or buyers. A key alone won't cut it. So much of modern life is like this. While your social life, career, or reputation isn't just a series of entries in the databases of tech giants, it's not far from it either. Why does this matter? Technology makes it convenient. Money as computer entries beats carrying gold. But ownership, at its core, reflects deeper systems. In a natural state, owning a house might mean you can defend it. In a village, ownership could be about mutual recognition and trust within a community. Home ownership, in many ways, is as much about social mediation as it is about physical space. A third way to think about ownership is through the lens of government. Owning a house means the government acknowledges your ownership and will step in if someone else tries to take it. Here, home ownership is mediated by the rule of law, with databases as tools for the government to keep track. Trust shifts from individuals to the system itself. Money works similarly. Gold is straightforward, but inconveniently heavy. A trusted banker holding your gold and issuing letters of credit is an improvement, but it depends on trust between you, the banker, and even the banker's cousin who runs another branch. Modern banking, where you deal with strangers or ATMs, relies instead on trust in the system. Trust that banks are regulated, reputable, and incentivized to act responsibly. Living in a world of databases means living in a world of trust. Sometimes this trust is personal, but more often it's abstract, trust in laws, institutions, and the systems that underpin modern life. We trust because it simplifies life, and because, remarkably, it generally works. It's one of modernity's greatest and least appreciated achievements, that the keepers of our databases are, by and large, worthy of our trust. Distrust. But trust isn't always guaranteed, and systems aren't always trustworthy. Sometimes, they simply fail. There are banks you can't trust with your money, governments that might seize your assets or manipulate elections, and social media platforms that can freeze your account without warning. Most people in the US enjoy a high-trust environment, where it's reasonable to rely on institutions that manage the databases shaping our lives. But that's not the case for everyone, everywhere. Even in the US, trust can be fragile. The 2008 financial crisis shattered many people's faith in banks. They trusted banks to handle their money safely, only to discover risky behavior that triggered a global economic meltdown. Since then, many have found it harder to trust banks with their savings. Additionally, some might philosophically object to trust. Even if a bank has an impeccable record, you might still wonder, how do I know you'll give me my money back? The bank might respond with financial statements, regulation assurances, and a history of reliability. But for some, that's not enough. Trust is baked into the system. It's a prerequisite, but it's not always easy to accept without proof. Composability. Even if you're comfortable trusting the keepers of modern databases, you might have technical concerns. Many systems aren't as efficient as they should be. For instance, much of banking still runs on an old computer language called COBOL, and in the US, electronic payments are sometimes still made with paper checks sent through the mail. Stock trades take 2 days to settle, not because of physical stock certificates, but because the system is outdated, slow, and prone to failure. And don't get started on the property registry. Buying a house means sitting through a long ceremony, a closing, where a title company lawyer handles paperwork. If you're used to modern databases, it's hard to understand why this process can take hours. You might imagine a world where all these databases talk to each other seamlessly. Banks could instantly check property ownership, your ID could be automatically verified, and brokerage accounts could be queried for assets, all through an API that connects everything. If we rewrote all databases with modern software, it would be like having one giant system for everything: money, property, reputation, and more, interconnected in one place. It would be powerful and convenient, but also frightening. It would put even more pressure on trust. Who could we trust to run such a system? Digital cash. In 2008, Satoshi Nakamoto introduced a method for everyone to run a database, effectively inventing crypto. Well, Satoshi's goal wasn't exactly to create crypto as we know it today. He was more immediately focused on inventing Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system as described in his famous white paper. Satoshi's invention was a way to enable digital payments without relying on trusted third parties like banks. Instead, Bitcoin allows two parties to transact directly, using cryptographic proof to ensure security. In theory, I could buy something from you by sending Bitcoin, and you'd send me the item, no intermediaries involved. But in reality, what Satoshi actually created wasn't a system with no involvement from others. It was a system where many people are involved. Digression. What are you even reading? Why are you reading it? Why am I writing it? Hi, I'm Matt. I'm a former lawyer and investment banker, now a columnist at Bloomberg Opinion, where I write about finance. I love it. Finance is a peculiar way of looking at the world, full of puzzles and structures that people have built to shape economic reality. It's all layered on top of itself, and while it's often counterintuitive, understanding it is satisfying. For the past few years, crypto has been the most polarizing topic in finance. Born from Bitcoin, it's not just an idea. It's a chart that's gone up. Bitcoin started worth nothing, but at its peak, it reached $67,000, with the total crypto market hitting $3 trillion. Those who got in early got very rich, and they let everyone know it. But many critics saw it as a bubble, useful mostly for crime or Ponzi schemes, and weren't shy about asking, what's it for? Or, why does it feel so grim? Then this year, the market crashed. Bitcoin dropped below $20,000, and crypto's value fell by 2/3. For skeptics, this was sweet vindication. For crypto enthusiasts, it's just a setback. The true believers remain, ready to build the future. Now, it's a good time to talk about crypto. While the charts aren't soaring, it's a moment of pause. We can reflect on what crypto really means, without the hype. I'm neutral about its value, but I think it's fascinating. If you love finance, crypto is a laboratory for financial ideas. In 14 years, it's created a whole new financial system, sometimes finding better ways to do things, and sometimes revisiting mistakes from traditional finance. Understanding crypto helps you understand traditional finance in a new light. As someone who writes about finance, I have a soft spot for stories of fraud, market manipulation, and clever people outwitting others. These stories are often entertaining, illuminating, and sometimes even funny, and crypto is full of them. So, I write a lot about crypto, including right here. But before we dive in, I should give you some warnings. First, I'm not a crypto expert or a true believer. I didn't own any crypto until I started working on this article. Now I own roughly $100 worth. I write about crypto as someone who enjoys human ingenuity and folly, and crypto has plenty of both. That said, I'm not here to tell you that crypto is dumb, worthless, and bound to disappear. That would be a waste of time. My goal is to show you that crypto is interesting, that it offers new insights into old problems, and that even when it's wrong in revealing ways. As a finance person, I'll also be talking a lot about crypto's financial system because it's surprisingly well developed, and because I like finance. A financial system is essentially a series of databases that helps move claims on real-world assets. A good financial system makes it easier for people to grow food, own homes, and create things like video games. A bad one enriches those who trade abstract claims without benefiting anyone else. For 14 years, a key question about crypto has been, what is it good for? If you ask for an example of a crypto business, you'll mostly hear about financial services, like exchanges. Sometimes, there are examples of crypto creating or distributing real-world value, like allowing immigrants to send money cheaply. But a lot of the time, it's about efficient gambling. Nothing wrong with that, but a financial system solely for gambling would be pretty limited. Crypto's biggest advocates say it's about building real, transformative things, redefining social relationships, gaming, and the internet. Maybe it will build the metaverse, or Web3, a new version of the internet. But if you ask for examples of businesses using crypto for these grand purposes, you'll mostly get vague ideas like, we could build a social media platform on Web3. It's still early. Maybe in 10 years, crypto will play a central role in the internet and change everything we do online. Maybe the early adopters will be rich and smug, and everyone else will regret not getting involved. Or maybe crypto will be a modestly efficient layer for online systems. It's too soon to know, but it's worth thinking about what crypto could mean for the future of the internet, whether it's utopian, dystopian, or just a little more efficient. And whatever happens, the finance behind it is cool, and it's cool now. Before we dive in, let me clarify a few things about names. First, crypto. The term isn't perfect. It's short for cryptocurrency, but much of what we're talking about isn't really about currency, and while cryptography is a part of it, Most people in crypto aren't cryptography experts. You could be a crypto billionaire without understanding the technical details, and true cryptography experts sometimes bristle at crypto stealing their term. So, I'll stick with crypto as a catch-all term. Next, Satoshi Nakamoto. That's a pseudonym, and the person behind the Bitcoin white paper has done a good job of staying anonymous. While there's lots of speculation about Satoshi's identity, including some amusing guesses like Elon Musk, I'll refer to them as Satoshi and use he/him pronouns, as most people do. A final point. Crypto is full of outsized personalities. If you read about crypto, it's likely to feature eccentric figures doing wild things. But here, I won't focus on the flashy characters. My goal is to explain what crypto is, so when you do encounter those quirky figures, you'll have a clearer sense of what they're actually doing. The crypto in crypto. Cryptography is the study of secret messages, coding and decoding. While most of this article isn't about cryptography, it's helpful to understand the basics, since crypto is built on it. In cryptography, you take an input, a number or text, and run a function that produces a different output. One useful property of cryptographic functions is that they're one-way, easy to compute in one direction, but hard to reverse. For example, multiplying two large prime numbers is straightforward, but factoring that product into the primes is tough. A common cryptographic function is hashing. This takes input, like this article, and generates a long, incomprehensible number. Even if you know the function, you can't reverse engineer the original input from the hash. It's like stirring cream into coffee. Easy to do, hard to undo. There's no apparent relationship between the hashes for "Hi, I'm Matt" and "Hi, I'm Matt." Even though the inputs are nearly identical, their outputs are wildly different. This is the key feature of the hashing function being one way. If similar inputs produce similar outputs, the function could be reversed. So, what's the point of a code that can't be decoded? It's for verification. If I send you the hash of an article, you can't decode it, but if I later send you the article, you can generate the hash yourself and check if it matches. This is useful in everyday situations, like password security. Instead of storing plaintext passwords, I hash them. When you log in, your password is hashed, and the system checks if it matches the stored hash. Even if someone steals the hash list, they can't decode your password. There are other advanced uses for hashing, like timestamping. For example, if you predict the Jets will win the Super Bowl in 2024, you could hash your prediction and tweet it. Later, when the Jets win, you can reveal the prediction and show that the hash matches. This proves your foresight without needing to trust anyone. Another key concept in cryptography is public key encryption. I have two keys, a public key, which anyone can see, and a private key, which I keep secret. You use my public key to encrypt a message, and I use my private key to decrypt it. This keeps our messages secure. A related idea is a digital signature. I use my private key to encrypt a message, and you use my public key to verify it was from me. This proves the message's authenticity. In a simple banking system with public accounts, I could send you a digitally signed message saying I control a certain account, and you could verify it using the public key. This is how Bitcoin works, though with more complexity. How Bitcoin works. Bitcoin works through a public ledger of addresses, each with a unique label and a Bitcoin balance. If I own Bitcoin, it means I have the private key corresponding to that address. I can send you Bitcoin by signing a message with my private key. You can check this signature using my public key and the public ledger, which confirms that I control the Bitcoin but doesn't give away my private key. This system eliminates the need for trust in intermediaries like banks. Instead of banks moving money, Bitcoin's network, thousands of people running Bitcoin software, maintains the ledger. Every transaction is broadcast to the network, and everyone updates their records accordingly. The result is a decentralized ledger of transactions. The trust shifts from banks to a decentralized network of anonymous participants, making Bitcoin's ledger secure and public. What have we accomplished? Bitcoin transactions are verified through cryptographic signatures. If I send Bitcoin from my address to yours and sign it with my private key, the network will verify the transaction. If I try to send Bitcoin from someone else's address without the private key, the network will reject it. This creates a system where the ledger is maintained and updated by open source software running on thousands of computers. Each transaction can be verified, so trust is based on transparency and validation, not blind faith in others. Though not everyone keeps the entire ledger, the decentralized system works because the network of full nodes ensures every transaction is verifiable. There's also an economic incentive to act honestly. If the network becomes dishonest, Bitcoin loses value, making fraud counterproductive. However, The system faces challenges, such as how Bitcoin is created and how to prevent issues like double spending. The blockchain, a public ledger of all transactions, provides a solution by ensuring everyone agrees on the order of transactions. In Bitcoin, transactions are compiled into blocks by miners and broadcast to the network. Once a block of transactions is accepted, it's officially added to the blockchain, creating an immutable record. Miners create a new block roughly every 10 minutes, and each block references the previous one using a hash, ensuring the order of transactions is agreed upon by everyone. To prevent malicious actors from flooding the network with fake transactions, Bitcoin uses a system where verifying transactions becomes expensive. This prevents attacks like the Sybil attack, where an attacker could create multiple fake nodes to manipulate the system. Instead, the network ensures only those who invest significant resources can add valid blocks, securing the blockchain. Bitcoin mining is a computationally expensive process. Miners take a list of transactions, add a nonce, a random number, and hash the entire combination using SHA-256. The goal is to produce a hash that is small enough, i.e., starts with a specific number of zeros, currently 19. This is extremely difficult, with odds of 75 sextillion to 1. Miners repeatedly try different nonces until they find the right one. The first miner to succeed broadcasts the block to the network, where others verify it. Once validated, the miner is rewarded with newly minted Bitcoin. This process secures the blockchain and ensures transactions are agreed upon by the network. Mining. Bitcoin mining is extremely costly, requiring specialized hardware and vast amounts of electricity, often comparable to that of medium-sized countries. Despite the high energy consumption, miners are solving an important problem: securing Bitcoin's network and ledger. This process is called proof of work, which proves that miners have invested substantial resources, making it difficult to manipulate the system. Miners earn Bitcoin rewards for their efforts, which are produced through mining and come out of nowhere. There was no initial allocation of Bitcoin. The reward has decreased over time, from 50 Bitcoin per block to 6.25 Bitcoin today. This mining process introduces a form of inflation, but it also helps prevent centralization of mining power. If too much power were controlled by one entity, they could manipulate the network, but the high cost of mining deters this. As a result, Bitcoin's decentralized system remains secure, and miners have a financial incentive to keep it that way.